Finally, it's time to do a video of this. There's a lot to cover and I've been putting it off because it's just such a lot of work to make this video, but I'm going to do it. Here it goes. This is my guitar rig. Amplifier, pedals, integrated case, integrated power, rechargeable power, a lot of rechargeable power, lasts a long time. 13 pedals, well actually 14, one of them's passive, but 13 powered pedals, a 2-channel amplifier, and some special trickery to make a wireless system sound good with a fuzz pedal. And there's all the pedals. So I'll go through the pedals when it's on the floor, and then I'll demonstrate how it works for me, live and in the studio. This is basically the only rig that I need, at least the way things are at the moment. It's a DI only rig, it's a traditional amp and cab rig, it's a recording rig, it's a silent recording rig, it's all of those things. It's very good. Everything on this board is pretty much what I'd call affordable, nothing really boutique or expensive. An entire rig with basically a Vox amp, a Marshall amp, and all the different flavours of overdrive and distortion that you're likely to need for most gigs, and power is pretty good going. Right, so here's a run through the board in signal chain order. That there is the input, that jack on the top. Now the reason I put it top facing like that is because when I'm playing live, I'm more often than not using a wireless, which is like this one, Boss Wireless. And the good thing about that is it won't get accidentally stepped on if it's sticking out the side here or here of my board. And when I'm not using it, say in between sets, I can just pull it out, but just leave it in place so that I don't put it down somewhere in the break and then forget where I put it. There you go, that's in and that's activated. There's the other end of it. That just goes in that little pouch there and just sits in there when I'm transporting the thing. So this here is the unbuffer device, which I've talked about on my website. There's a little transformer in here, a little coil. What this is doing is acting like a pickup simulator. For example, if you're using a fuzz and you're using a wireless like I do, you're effectively putting a buffer before your fuzz, which normally messes the sound of the fuzz up. It stops it being responsive to the volume and it makes it all sound thin and trashy and horrible. Well, this goes quite some way to rectifying that problem. It doesn't do the same job as plugging your cable straight into the fuzz, but it does a satisfactory job, I think. The fuzz is much better responsive to the volume control than it is without this. Not as good as the cable direct, but it's still not bad. Regardless of that, I don't really use my volume control for cleaning up on the guitar very often, and that is because next in the chain I have this. This is a volume and a tone control like you'd find on the guitar, and this one, the volume control is bypassed with this. So what I do is I have my fuzz always on, and then this is my rhythm and lead tone. So my rhythm setting is right there, where it says fuzz clean. That's my clean up tone, and then when I want to go full fuzz, I just press on that again. So that's why this is a big red knob. This is my solo button basically. Under here, that grey thing, that's a power bank, 20,000 milliamp hour power bank. It has a lot of charge in it. Takes a long time to charge up, but it lasts a long time as well. So just around here is the button. Now watch when there we go. All these pedals are powered by that power bank. Underneath here is a 5-volt USB to 9-volt center negative converter. That enables me to use the power bank for powering all these pedals. This converter has a maximum load on it of 2 amps, so I've got plenty here, plenty. Vintage mode on all the time, and then the compressor here. This then becomes a boost to really make that cut through when it's not quite enough. That's vintage mode. Modern mode, that goes off. That stays on all the time, and that goes up to about 3 o'clock. This then becomes my big sound. These little things here I just made these out of a felt pen top and a nut, super glued that on. When there's a pedal I want to be always on, or in this case the tuner, where I don't want to step on it in the heat of the moment and turn off my sound, it just stops me from accidentally stepping on the button. That's another kind that I made, which you can just take off. Noise gate number 1. That's to stop the noise coming from these breaking through all the time. So when I'm not playing, I have it set so that when this is up full and these two are both on, this will still be closed. After that, chorus. I like the chorus to come before the overdrive. It sounds good like this. 2 overdrives, they're both set on minimum gain. I'm only really using them as kind of a slightly dirty boost. There, that one. Now that comes after this one. This is going underneath and into there. That's the sag. That is my DIY EP booster copy, which I didn't make it. I got it from some guy just making them in China. I don't think it's a very accurate copy of an EP booster, but it sounds really great. It's got very little headroom, so the more level you put into it, it starts collapsing. So it really sounds like an old amp that's having a hard time coping, which is kind of how I like things to go when I'm really rocking out. And then from there, it goes into the amp. Hotone Britwind. Clean channel is Vox voiced. Dirty channel is Marshall. When I'm playing live, it's almost exclusively on the Marshall. These are the settings generally that I'm using. Gain all the way down. Volume pretty high. I'll explain that. And then the EQ. I normally dial out a bit of mid, a bit of bass, and just add a little bit of treble. Reverb. The boost, a very little amount of boost, because I normally leave it on most of the time. It sounds a bit more full-bodied. If I really need to duck down a little bit, I've got somewhere to go. So I've got, rather than all my sounds just being increases, I can just turn off the boost and just step back a little bit. From the send of the effects loop, we go into, this is the one pedal here that I tend to swap out. Currently it's a slow engine, which is like volume swell pedal. For certain gigs I often need to put there instead a pitch shifter to drop the pitch of my guitar down a couple of semitones for certain songs that are in certain keys. So it's easy to get to. I can just pull it off, put the other one in its place, job done. The tuner's there. The tuner's in the loop because there's not really anywhere else for it to go. I mean, that's the only space left for it, but it works fine. It doesn't impair the performance of it. Tremolo. I normally have it set halfway. I keep the speed where it is there with that little mark. This boosts the volume when you turn it on to compensate for the perception of level drop you get from tremolos. When the intensity is all the way down and you switch this thing on, this acts as a volume boost. So if I need it in the heat of the moment, I can just raise the volume of my entire rig by a few dBs. So that's really handy. It's kind of 2 pedals in one in that respect. Flashback mini delay. First line is a slap, and I've set the feedback and the level to a point where it works well. I can just keep this level up most of the time and it just works. Bit more, 12 o'clock, slightly longer delay, a few more repeats, not too loud, quite background. This line here, it goes on for a long time. It's almost infinite repeat. It's great for special effects and stuff like that, and it gets quite spacey and all that. And then all the way around is my main rhythmic type delay. That's got the loudest repeats, and it's really cool. All the way down, no modulation, and then as we go, I'm just using the vibrato. So when you get to the middle, it sounds almost like ADT type effect. It's kind of similar. And all the way up, it's faster. I'll try to get it to sound as close as I can to a Fender Vibratone cab. And it sounds really good. It's basically a rotary speaker type sound, and it's great. And that works when the delay's on or all the way down. And this is just controls the level. Oh, sorry, yeah. Before we get to the delay, we just take a little trip down underneath to noise gate number 2. And that's probably not really that necessary, but it just takes away the hiss from the pedals that come after this one. And it's not huge, but when you're at stage volume, it gets a bit annoying, I think, sometimes. So when I'm not playing, it's dead silent. And then after the noise gate is my master volume control, which is why I have this set high, because then I just leave it set and I don't touch this. So whether I'm playing quietly at home or full volume on stage, I don't have to keep turning this up and down. So this is set to be optimized for this volume. So if I turn this down, this would behave differently because of the dynamic parameters that I've got programmed into it. So that's the reason for that. Also, the reason is if I do use both channels or switch between them, I've got them balanced here on the volume, and then I've just got one master volume to turn them both up and down the same, rather than having to tweak 2 volumes every time. This is a limiter actually, but I've got the threshold all the way down, so I'm not really limiting at all. It only starts kicking in when this is on its most extreme setting, which is the pseudo infinite repeating delay, because this kind of runs out of headroom. When it's limiting too much, it starts overloading and you can hear it. It doesn't sound very nice when it does that. So I'd say when this volume is at noon on here, that's probably about the same as the volume of the amp if I was going straight out without this. So that means that all this extra is extra volume than what this amp puts out by itself. And then of course the reverb, that comes last before going out to the speaker. The DI, I just got it on this okay because it's easier to access. I don't really use the DI when I'm playing live. It sounds okay, but it's not great. But there have been a couple of occasions where I've gone to a gig on a motorbike and I haven't had a cab, so I've just gone DI with this. It's okay. I normally have to change the EQ a little bit. For all those of you that are interested in all the geeky technical aspects of the rig, I mean, that's it basically. Oh yeah, and the case I got it on eBay, but it came from Australia. It's called Ashton. It's really great. I really like it. I was looking for exactly something like this, and this was the only one I found. I know it sounds like just a small, insignificant thing, but I love the fact that I don't have to take my pedal board out of a case and then find somewhere to put the case. Just like a hard case, you know, they take the top off the case and the base is the bottom of the case. This is the same, except it's a soft case and it goes over my shoulder. Just a quick guest appearance. Reunion Blues twin guitar case. I get 2 guitars in there. That on my back, that over one shoulder, that in my hand, that cab, that's my entire rig. And I still have a hand left for this suitcase full of mic cables, mics, just in case. So I'll do a sound demo of this in just a second, and you can see how everything works. So we're tuned up. That tuner's in the loop. So this is my, what you call home tone, I suppose. With the humbucker in the bridge position, it's like a breakup sound, it's quite crunchy. And at the moment we're on, the sound is a blend of the mic in the ISO cab and the cab sim DI. This is the DI by itself. This is the mic now. They're both mixed. That's on the bridge pickup. On the neck pickup, it's a lot cleaner. If I'm playing clean, it's generally neck pickup. Switch to bridge and we're... So if we're on the bridge pickup, say, let's switch on the lead. It's a germanium fuzz face clone. I don't like my fuzz sound to be loads louder than my main rhythm tone. I like to have the sound, but not to be a lot louder, because I've got a boost here to lift the level a bit up. This is my full sound. No noise. That's what happens when you go to town on putting noise gates in the chain. Clean, almost out of the way. If I want to be more forward clean, but obviously it's not going to be totally clean. It's quite good for Chili Peppers-y type stuff where you just want a lot more body, but because you're playing single notes or licks, it doesn't sound so crunchy. So you know. core modern config, I don't use that anymore. I turn that sustain right up, so we're for modern config. I can always go, if I really need clean, I can go back to the clean channel and playing modern mode. I generally don't need as big a lead sound, but I've still got drives there on the amp. There you go. Again, no noise. Obviously, if I turn the fuzz on now with this cranked right up, we are noise city, which we don't want. So, but then that's the setting for vintage mode. It's not bad, but I prefer the Marshall with all the gain and the fuzz and the boost in front of the amp. I think the Marshall takes that a bit better, but the Vox channel does a really nice clean, and clean with a hint of breakup going into it's nice. But the Marshall always cuts through better on stage. This chorus, I just said it once and forget it. Slowest rate, maximum depth. I like the chorus slow because it gives a nice contrast to the other effects here. So I've got this tremolo which I normally have set halfway. Delay. Right, let's start with the delay on 0. I programmed the feedback knob to be modulation, just control the, and I've got it set to vibrato, so it's up about 10 o'clock. Right there at 12 o'clock, it's very extreme but slow. Almost like a double tracked sort of sound. When we go all the way up, this is the best, I think. And because I've got dynamic delay parameters set in there, it gets out of the way when you're playing a lot of stuff, so it's it's really cool. The delay then, I basically marked out like presets. So the first one I use, which I don't use that often, is a slap with the repeat set to 1 repeat and the level set quite low, so it never overpowers the main signals. Of course, the louder the signal that goes in, the less prominent it will be because it's getting ducked. It's getting ducked by the dynamic stuff. The overdrive section. It has more effect at stage level than it does here in the studio, but I know that it works because these are the settings I use. Quick mention of the sag, which is in there. That's set to about 3/4 of the way up, and it just adds a bit of sag, or a sag type effect before the amp, which is really nice. The limiter here is a master volume. I can just show you, I guess, if I'm going on a DI only, sometimes it helps if that's kicking in. Let's say I'm EQ'd a bit different as well. It does sound okay through a PA because the speakers are big, but here in the studio it always sounds a bit small and thin, so it's not really how it sounds playing at stage volume if you're just using the DI. It is better than that, but again, it's not as good as an impulse response, and it's not as good as the mic'd up cab, but sometimes it's very, very handy. Here's how it behaves with the wireless. I've got the coils turned off at the moment on the unbuffer devices. There's the transmitter, goes into the guitar. There's a receiver, goes into the pedal board, out of harm's way. This is how, in comparison to the cable, this is how the guitar sounds into the fuzz, full volume from here. I've got that bypassed. It's not as nice, it's not as warm. And there, listen to that. All the same settings, there's noise getting through there, that's without the coils on. Okay, let's activate one coil. Okay, it's reduced the noise, but look, still trying to get through a little bit, but it's reduced the noise. What has it done to the sound? It has improved. It's still a little bit messed up to me. Let's activate the important coil. That to me sounds more like the cable now. Nicer sound. And I can get a little bit closer to the cable with this by varying the resistance. Doesn't make any difference on quiet. On the lead setting, from that to that. This is effectively lowering the output of the simulated pickup. All the way up. A bit more fuzzy there. I have it kind of in the middle, somewhere like that. But it's not quite as good as a cable, but I think it's as good as I'll ever get it to sounding and behaving like the cable with these. And the bonus is, if I am in a place with bad electrics, which can happen, or if there's a lot of rain blowing in to the stage, which also sometimes happens, I'm not going to get an electric shock because I'm isolated. I'm isolated. I'm not plugged into the matrix at that point. I'm off grid. So I hope you enjoyed the long-winded tour of the pedal board, and I hope it gives you some ideas for your own rig.